It's been a little over a week since Samsung's voluntary recall of the Galaxy Note 7. So far, it's been pretty messy. Joining us to talk about some of the frustrations customers are having with returning their phones is Christina Warren, reporter at Gizmodo. Welcome, Christina.
Hey guys, how are you?
So I am doing well. So what were customers originally told to do with their phones?
So, I mean, it depends on where they bought the phone and where they bought it from. So, Samsung originally said, if you bought your phone from us, call 1-800-SAMSUNG or whatever, or take it back to your carrier store. But what ended up happening is some customers, if they bought things online from a carrier and they try to take it back to a store, some of the stores are saying, no, you've got to return this to Samsung. And then they would call Samsung, and Samsung would say, no, you've got to take this back to your carrier. And so there's been, at least for dozens of people that I've talked to in my reporting, a lot of confusion about not only how they go about returning their phones, but what the process will be for exchanging it for a different phone, especially if they want another Galaxy Note 7. Because right now, there is not a date yet in the United States for when new Galaxy Note 7s that are corrected will be there. Now, that's understandable. It's going to take Samsung some time to make new phones that are going to be able to not have this battery problem. They sold more than 2 million of these things. It's going to take them time to ramp up production. But we don't yet have a date as when those fixed phones are going to be in stores. Samsung saying soon, but they haven't given a date. They've given a date in some countries. They haven't in the United States. Carriers don't have any they genuinely don't know. I talked to all 3 major carriers. I talked to T-Mobile, I talked to AT&T, and I talked to Verizon. They don't know when they're going to get them. AT&T actually issued a statement today finally kind of saying, bring them back to the store, exchange it out for a different phone, and then once we get it in, you can exchange it for Galaxy Note 7 if you want that. Depending on your carrier, you might be able to get a loaner phone, but that process is also proving to be difficult for consumers to kind of work out.
Yeah, the loaner phone seems necessary because, I mean, if I'm, if I'm given the choice between give up my only phone
right.
and wait, I might just keep it around and think, oh, well, only 30 or 40 people,
right.
have gotten hurt. I'm going to just take my chances. So
yeah. No, you're exactly right. And that's sort of the problem. And one of the things I've heard, and this has been concerning to me, because when I started reporting this story, it was on Friday. It was before the CSPC, the Consumer Safety Product Commission, released their statement and said that they were working with Samsung on an official recall. When I started work on my story Friday, it ended up publishing after the recall had been announced, or the official, I guess, collaboration had been announced. But I started working on it beforehand, and even at that point, I was hearing from customers saying that the carriers were basically trying to talk them into keeping phones, and basically saying to them, only 35 of these have had issues, and just hold on to it, and we'll have them in a few weeks, and you can bring it back. By the time the recall happened on Friday, you should think, okay, at this point, carriers should know better. They should no longer be telling people that the CSPC and Samsung are both saying, shut these things off. Do not use these phones. I'm getting emails from people, on Saturday, on Sunday, today, where they're still going into carrier stores, and carriers are telling them, hold on to the phone. We don't know when we're going to get new ones, but you're going to be fine because it's only been a few people. And that's really, really, really concerning.
Oh, and did you have a point?
Well, now that's annoying to hear, obviously. But they're a victim of their own success. The phone is doing so well, they're sold out. It's understandable that they can't get replacements. But Jiminy Christmas, just have everybody bring the phone in and give them S7 and start making the Samsung Note 8 and just skip this 7. Don't even make new 7s. Just start making the 8 and have it come out after Christmas, because you're kind of beat now, because people are going to be so upset and have a bad taste in their mouth, even though the phone is a resounding hit. And people love it. Now they just think in their mind that I'm going to catch on fire possibly, and they're getting pushback. Just give them S7s and keep it moving. You're going to lose people having these kind of little tiffs over not helping them.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the problems that I've talked to a number of people, and this is even a case when they bought them directly from Samsung. I spoke to one woman who ordered 2 phones directly from Samsung, and Samsung said, well, you can return the phones to us, wait for us to give you a credit, and then you can order 2 new phones. So it wasn't even an instance where they're saying, well, we'll go ahead and send you replacement phones when we have them and you send us back your broken phones. It's saying, no, you're going to have to go through a return, wait to get credited, the $1,800 or whatever she'd spent on 2 phones. Once we process the return, we'll credit you, then you can place a new order. So, there's definitely something to be said, I think, about the customer service component. And Owen, you and I, we were on TWiT a little over a week ago, and we were talking about the recall. And at the time, I'd actually said I thought that they were handling things pretty well, and I thought that the Consumer Reports was overreacting a little bit. I need to now go on the record now that I'm on this show. I need to retract my statement and say I was wrong, because learning more about what's happened, we've obviously seen more incidents happen since that happened, hearing from the CSPC, and frankly seeing how this recall has been handled, where there's so much confusion, where people are taking phones into stores and being told one thing, calling the same carrier on the phone being told another, calling Samsung hearing a third thing, not knowing how they can switch out their phone. Some people are concerned because, like you said, Megan, they might not have a phone. So if they either feel forced to get a replacement phone, maybe they get an S7 Edge or something like that. Maybe they don't want an S7. Maybe they wanted the Note 7 and they feel like, well, I'm forced to get this phone exchange because this one's not safe. And then the carrier is saying to them, well, if we don't get these replacements in stock by the end of September, within this 2-week period, then you're going to be stuck with this other phone you bought. Or if you buy like a $50 or $100 replacement phone, to hold you over, if we don't have the replacements in stock by then, you might be stuck on the hook for this phone. And so right now there's a lot of confusion. Samsung has, in my opinion, not done a very good job about being transparent. I will give credit to Samsung Australia, who has done a very good job. They have basically said that they're going to be getting shipments in, I believe, starting on September 21st, and they are going to be marking, phones on the store's shelves with an S that will be corrected. They've also sent messages and notes to every single Samsung Galaxy Note 7 owner in Australia saying your phone's being recalled. So I think that the way that this is being handled is different from region to region. I've heard from people in other regions who are also experiencing difficulties, and then in some places they're hearing better things. So, I like you're right, Owen. Like, this is partially Samsung's a victim of their own success because they did sell so many of these things, but it doesn't mean that they can be not transparent about the process. And I think that the real problem is that the carriers don't know when they're getting new stock in, and then the process for doing these exchanges is a lot more complicated than it should be. And my big fear with that is that if people are hitting roadblocks and they're not going to be able to, they feel like it's going to be such a pain to replace their phone, they might not. And right now, that's really dangerous. When the CSPC and when Samsung are saying power these things off, when we're seeing reports nearly every day now of something terrible happening with these phones, you know what? I don't care how many, what the odds might be in your favor. Turn the phone off, turn it in, get something else. Because they're just not safe to use.
I would love to tell every person to, first of all, if you bought this phone in full on your credit card, dispute it with your card carrier.
Totally.
And if you want to hold the phone till they trade the phone in, just make sure they don't have their money. Then someone's going to call you and ask you why. They can try to dispute it, but you tell them you have a time bomb in your pocket. And if you're going into the store and you're trying to exchange your phone, I highly suggest you have another phone that doesn't blow up, apparently, and record that interaction so that when they tell you that they said something that they didn't say, you have it down and documented. I just tell them up front, hey, I'm going to record this conversation. I was told to bring the phone back in. You're telling me to go to them. I just want to know what I need to do. Because people need to start being held accountable instead of just towing the corporate line and pushing people around. Basically what it is a shell game. You got A, B, and C. C's not ready yet, so A and B are kind of playing this game to buy time so that C can get ready. That's not really fair for people that paid a lot of money or rented or signed into a contract or whatever you did. You get trapped in with these phones. They need to do better, much better.
So you said that they're going to put an S on the new phones to mean safe, I guess.
Right, yes, yeah.
And then, so there's a waiting list. You also write that there's a waiting list for these new phones. I mean, there's a lot of people that still, they want the phone back. So, we've heard that the FCC says you can't bring these on planes, you can't put them in your checked luggage. How are they going to know? I mean, are they going to check every one to make sure it has the S on it?
That's why I said they need the S8. They need the Note 8. They need to just scrap the 7.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a really interesting point, and I'm not sure. I mean, the S is going to go on the box, so I don't know how you're going to, connote on the phone itself that it's different, because it's going to look the same unless you can put something in the firmware, and basically do like about this phone and it gives you a message of safe. I don't know. There was a conspiracy theory on Reddit, and I believe this was disproven, where someone in Samsung France was saying that they were going to remotely disable the phones. I think that's been disproven. I don't think that's going to be the case. But frankly, depending on what the CSPC says and depending on what it seems like the threat might be, it might get to the point where that might have to be something that they consider doing, frankly, is remotely disabling those phones so that, people feel safe to have them allowed on airplanes. I don't know the solution, though, because that's a great point. How are you going to tell the difference between a good phone and a bad phone? Visually, they're going to look the same, and
the TSA is checking firmware now. I don't trust them to do that.
No, they
can't check shoes.
Exactly. They can't check shoes. I mean, they're already supposed to not let people on with batteries that are below a certain percentage, and they don't do that. So, yeah, I don't know how they're going to do spot checks. I mean, I guess pessimistically, my thought is they're probably not. They're probably going to make announcements, and then anybody who sees a Samsung is going to be like, "Oh, is that the new phone?" And if you've got the new phone, you're going to be like, "No, that's not the new phone. That's last year's phone. It's totally different. This is safe. Don't worry, guys." But yeah, I don't know how they're going to be able to prove that. I think Samsung has got a real mess for themselves, unfortunately, and obviously, I think the biggest concern right now, though, is how they can get these phones replaced quickly and efficiently, whether it's giving people loaners, whether it's exchanging them for Galaxy S7s, whether it's, getting, the new stock of the fixed phones out there. We need to get the phones that were sold, out of people's hands, because at this point, there are too many stories. We're literally seeing them, like I was saying, almost every day, bad things happening, and that's not a risk. I don't think that consumers should be taking just for a cell phone. It's not worth it.
Well, between hoverboards and this phone, I mean, is this the future with lithium ion batteries?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just trying to get bigger batteries, and I mean, do you think this is not the last device that's going to explode on us?
Definitely not the last device. I think that this is going to be really interesting to see how this is handled, and sort of, we saw this with hoverboards a lot because there wasn't, they didn't have the UL certification, and so they were just coming in overseas and they weren't checked. I mean, this is a slightly different case because this is a company that has a history of making very good products and making, billions of batteries. That Samsung has their own, battery component. They are one of the largest battery suppliers in the world. And so, we've seen battery recalls before in the past. I don't think this is going to be the last time we've seen this happen, but I think that how this is handled will probably inform what happens next time. But yeah, you bring up a great point, and I think these are things we have to think about when we use these devices, and especially as we want to get into more powerful batteries, is when we do things like quick charging and having higher capacity batteries, because these things are important. You've got to kind of understand, if the technology is not just right, it could be really dangerous, and that's a scary thing to think about.
Maybe if they did a little bit more testing and didn't put it into people's hands so quick, we might have known that one or two of those phones might have got too hot. The R&D wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm. We just need our things as fast as possible and the battery to last as long as possible. Well, Christina Warren, thank you so much for joining us. Christina is a reporter at Gizmodo. She is at Film Girl on Twitter. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Christina.
Yes.
Did you pour some out for the plug?
I did. I forced some out for the plug for you, dude. I did.
I love you too. Just checking.
I absolutely did. Bye, guys.